A woman sues a bar after getting so drunk she blew up a $10 million home. She was so bombed she blew up a house. A Canadian woman who caused $10 million in damages after driving drunk, crashing into a house, and causing an explosion is now suing the concert venue that provided her alcoholic beverages as she claims the owners are to blame. Which, this is the thing, she's going to have to go through such a long process to actually be able to prove that they are at fault. But, like, they stopped giving her alcohol at some point, you know? So the car bomb fiasco occurred in August 2019 while Daniela Leas, 26, was driving home from a Marilyn Manson concert at the Budweiser Gardens Arena in London, Ontario, the CBC reported. After drinking at the show and getting behind the wheel, which is a horrible idea, Lays crashed her Ford Fusion, registered to her father, into a brick home at 450 Woodman Avenue, rupturing a gas line and triggering a massive explosion that destroyed four houses and injured seven people. Falling embers led to blazes in several homes nearby, and the entire neighborhood had to be evacuated, with gas and water service shut off in the area. All told, the blast reportedly caused damages in the neighborhood of 9.8 million to 14.7 million dollars. Like, here's the thing. No matter what, like, this girl can't pretty much prove anything to the extent that she probably needs to where she'd get off of this. Like, she is pretty much 100% financially screwed. Like, this is a brutal situation. The financial impact of Miss Lay's actions have been enormous, with the total damage estimate approaching $15 million, Judge George Orsini told the court. Meanwhile, victims included two police officers and two firefighters who suffered numerous injuries, with firefighter forced to spend more than a week in a hospital before being discharged. Whew. And she was convicted of impaired driving in 2019. Lays subsequently pled guilty to four counts of impaired driving and was slapped with a 3-year prison sentence in 2021. This is the thing, she already pled guilty. So it's like she's pretty much stuck with this. However, the Canuck wasn't about to throw away her shot at easing the financial strain. This month, she and her father, Sean Lays, filed a lawsuit against Ovations Ontario Food Services. The company that distributed the hooch, they claimed that the libations purveyor shares liability for the blast on the grounds that staffers ejected Lace from the venue while failing to take steps to ensure she would not drive home, according to legal documents. In addition, Lace also alleged that Ovations had served her alcohol while aware that the bargoer was intoxicated, accusing them of putting profit above safety, and that the resulting damage was caused or contributed to by the negligence, breach of duty, breach of contract by the bar. As reparations, they believe that the booze distributor is responsible for any awards or judgment amounts resulting from multiple court claims levied against them by Woodman Avenue victims. That is, if the father daughter duo is required to pay any amount, then they are entitled to contribution and indemnity from Ovations. Like, this is the thing. Like, they're not going to be able to get the business to basically cover the cost of all this. Like, she straight up admitted guilt. Like she admitted guilt to the whole thing. She personally went behind the wheel of a vehicle while intoxicated, crashed into a building, and caused a massive neighborhood explosion. Like, this is the thing. When you make some bad choices, sometimes you just gotta own up to it and deal with it. And she's gonna have to deal with a lot. I mean, this is a lot of money that she's gonna have to be responsible to deal with. which is a crazy thing. Like, I mean, I would personally be scared dealing with that type of money, but here's the thing, you could potentially maybe file for bankruptcy. But at the same time, it's like even if you didn't do that, like you probably didn't have much money to begin with. So does it really matter one way or the other? Like she probably didn't have any money to begin with. So it's just something to really think about, you know? But yeah, if I was her, I would probably just file for bankruptcy. And then if I can't do that, I mean, you've pretty much already are going to go to prison anyways. It's like you got no money, you can't pay it, right? Who knows how they're actually going to end up doing this stuff? It's just crazy. Let's see some of these comments. Women and accountability have very strained relationship. Did they force you to drink? Did they force you to drive? Idiot. She probably went to different bartenders, her desperate attempt to try avoiding the massive civil suits lining up, $15 million concert, Uber people. Yeah, that's the thing. She could have Ubered. This suit is going absolutely nowhere. It's not the venue's responsibility to give her a ride home. And if serving intoxicated patrons one more drink led to civil liability, every bar across the nation would be bankrupt. Serving a visibly intoxicated person is very much illegal in many places. The problem lay in when they had drinks before you served them or they tossed drugs onto it. Bars are held liable for decisions outside their realm of influence quite often. But by ejecting her, that means they stop serving a visibly intox person. I think she has to prove she didn't drink after she left the venue. It does depend on the law, there's a chance that the business has liability. The thing is, I really don't think that I, I don't think that the venue is going to end up being held responsible for this, right? But this is the thing. This is in Canada, right? Like I don't know how the legal system works in Canada. It's probably pretty weird. Interesting. Feel free to give your thoughts on this. Like I just don't understand how she thinks that she's going to be able to get away with putting the blame on the venue when she had already admitted fault. So here's the thing. I like this one. Sounds silly, but there is one potential upside. Her insurance and assets were probably inadequate to cover. Victims were not likely fully compensated. Courts don't mind a little stretch to involve a party with deep pockets if it gets the victims taken care of. That may be what's going on here. Interesting. It's always someone else's fault. Take responsibility, which funny enough she did, and don't drink if you're going to drive. Like that's the thing, right? The fact is she decided to go behind the wheel while she was drunk. While she knew she already drank a lot. And so for her to have gone behind the wheel, that's completely on her, not on the venue. Or at least it shouldn't be, right? Interesting. Let's see. Legally, she doesn't have a case, but the other claimants have a case. She has to pay her damages, but the venue owner can be held liable for even more damages. It happens all the time in the states, but again, this isn't the states. This is in Canada. So like, who knows what is actually going to be happening in that legal system at all? But the thing is, I think that she's pretty much going to be held solely responsible for this, but she doesn't have any money, so even if they were to tack on more like prison time or jail time or probation time, like it doesn't really matter. And if they were to ever garner her wages, it doesn't even matter because she doesn't even really make that much money. So it's just something to think about. It's kind of like this is the problem, right? If you try to sue like a homeless person, you're not really going to get anything. So it's going to literally cost you more than it is to actually just not do anything towards that homeless person. And that's pretty much the situation that this is in. Like, the people that had all this damages are probably not really going to get anything from her insurance. But this is also the thing, too, because I believe, like, if I recall, this is the weird thing about Canada in terms of like the car insurance or whatever. I think they have 100% coverage to any damage done. Meaning, because it's also, I think, subsidized by the actual government of Canada. I think that's how their car insurance system basically works. So every single person that drives a vehicle in Canada has 100% full coverage for, I believe, all parties. Meaning, she might end up actually paying that full amount, but because it's pretty much backed by the government. It's a really weird system in Canada, right? Like, for example, in the United States, you could end up having someone that causes like a crash, but they only have like $20,000 of like insurance, but they cause like a $300,000 car accident. Well, you might be to get the 20 grand, but they might be so poor on top of that that even if you were to personally sue them, you wouldn't even get anything, right? But in Canada, I think no matter what, everything is covered in with insurance. Like every single cost is covered. So, just something to think about.